School nutrition staff, meal production record, back to school staff development. It would be recommended that if you have a meal production record that you can have in front of you during this training, it would be helpful. Meal production records tell the story of what really happened that day in the kitchen. Don't make things up. Record accurate and truthful information. If you record what you did in column 14 or use column 13 for items using staggered production and final total amount in column 14 is recorded at the end of meal service, the form will almost be complete at the end of the meal service. Staff preparing the food must be accurate with reporting what they did. Don't just copy what the manager planned if that is not what you did. Record what really happened. If an item is planned and you do not prepare any of it, then show a 0 in column 14 and write in what really occurred on the cover page and body of the meal production record at the end of the document. Don't mark through or write in areas where another item was planned. For example, if you have peaches planned and you don't have any on hand and you sub pears, don't write the amount of pears you used on the peach line. On the peach line, you should show a 0, and then you should write in pears at the bottom of the document, write in the recipe number, the serving size, the contribution to the meal pattern, and then go to column 14 and indicate the amount that you used. The meal production record is the legal document that justifies the meal claimed met the meal pattern requirements. During a review, fiscal reclaims may occur due to missing meal production records or inaccurate documentation. When should the meal production record be completed? Employees who prepare the items should provide accurate information as they are preparing items. Do not rely on your memory. For items that staggered production is not used, for example, spaghetti, tacos, or cheesy pasta, record once you've finished preparing, and for items that more of a food item will be cooked during meal service, complete at the end of the day's meal service. To document the actual amounts prepared and left over, use column 13 for tracking what originally prepared, and backup adds more in this column, and at the end of the day, record the total amount in column 14 for each item prepared and available during the meal service. The production record cover page. We're going to look at this cover page, and we want you to be able to follow the 3 columns that reflect the foods using temperature. The first column is when the time of the first pan that was cooked was prepared. The second column is the food temp once the food was cooked. You'll take the temperature of the food. If it's not at the correct temperature that's indicated for the cook hold temp, then you're going to go ahead and reheat it until you reach the targeted temperature. The third column is the food temp once it's removed from the holding cabinet. And the last column is used if we're using TPHC for the time that the food was placed on the line for service. So you're going to fill in the time the first pan was placed on the line in this section. This column only is used for your TPHC. Guidelines using time. Pitt County School Nutrition Cafeteria staff will write the time the first pan is removed from the warming cabinet on the meal production record in the column marked time, TPHC. All foods following time must be discarded once placed on the serving line, and you must discard when 4 hours occurs from the time recorded that the first pan was placed on the serving line. Therefore, do not place foods on the serving line for the specified hot and cold foods too early. Know your meal service schedules for each day of meal service. What is TPHC? Cold or hot foods that do not maintain their temperature well and therefore will follow time instead of temperature. Very specific foods chosen that stagger production works best. Generally, you have a lot of surface space, do not hold temps well, and health inspections usually mark points for being out of temp. Examples are corn dogs, bun items, pizza, salads, etc. You must follow the guidelines. Once these foods have been placed on the serving line, they can't be kept as a leftover. They do have to be heated to the proper cook temperature before you place them on the serving line or in the warming cabinet. Holding TCS foods using time. Do not place TCS foods on the serving line before 10 a.m. Most lunches end by 2, so adjust your time that you place foods on the line based on the ending time of your meal service. TCS foods may be on the serving line up to 4 hours. Once on the serving line, do not place back in the warming cabinet. Holding TCS foods using temperature. Any of these specified foods left in the warming cabinet or refrigeration that has never been placed on the serving line may be kept as a leftover if the temperature has been maintained at 135 degrees for the hot foods or 41 degrees for the cold foods. The food is cooled and stored properly. Clad, cover, label, amount, date prepared, and date to discard, and used within 3 days from the date prepared. Meal production records. Allergens for the menu item shows on the meal production record. Staff should reference Google Docs, recipes, or cases for allergens for specific items. Check emails for sub-menu items and allergens that are listed. Let Katie know if anything on the meal production record, recipe, and allergen Google Doc does not match. Know your allergens for a la carte snacks offered. Cashiers, servers, and management should review allergens before each meal service and record on the countdown form for quick lunch. You should also make sure that you have items available on hand for students with allergens if nothing on the menu will meet their diet statement. Allergens are entered in quick lunch from the central office. This section of the production record is in regards to personnel. The manager will answer these questions. It talks about the personnel's health, if they have to send someone home, if you had any corrective action that needs to be taken, if proper hand washing is being observed for the staff, if there's no bare hand contact for ready-to-eat foods, and if the thermometers have been calibrated. Don't check these sections off until you've actually observed the staff, and don't check them off if you really didn't observe it. When should you complete the meal production record, column 5 for personnel? Complete this section on the day of meal service. Actually look at the employees before answering this section. If you send someone home, make a note and document it here, and never check this section before the day's meal service begins. On the production record, when you check yes in this section, it means that water is available and accessible to the students in the dining room. If there is no water fountain in the dining room, then cups must be available and a dispenser or pitcher of water available on the serving line in the dining room. Water must be available at lunch. All right, so now we tell what the staff should prepare and the total amount indicated to the left. You also have column 11C, which tells the total amount of food that you have planned for that day. It includes a la carte and the student meals, and if you have any catered meals that are not a part of the school system. Then we tell you where the prep staff and the backup staff will complete columns 14 and 16, and write anything added. Include the recipe number, portion size, contribution to the meal pattern, if it's an add-on or a sub or a leftover, and the date that you did it. You must match the cover page with the temps and the amount available, a la carte, and leftovers and discarded. What this means is if you write something on the body of the meal production record, which is this page here, you must have the same items written on the cover page and include their temperatures. And you need to be accurate with that information. Use the shopping list to ensure you have the food items needed based on what was planned and avoid having to hunt down product. This is for the manager's use. How must information be recorded in the column 14 on the meal production record? You must show pounds for each item that contributes to the meal pattern. For example, with spaghetti, you need to show the pounds of cheese, the pound of ground beef, and the pounds of noodles. Or for example, if you're using whole kernel corn, you would show the pounds of the whole kernel corn. For the spaghetti, there may be tomato sauce, but it doesn't contribute towards the meal pattern, so you would not have to show that in column 14. Show the number of cans for each item that contributes to the meal pattern, such as green beans, the number of cans used. Show each for the items that contributes to the meal pattern. For corn dogs, it's going to be the number of corn dogs or the number of servings. So if it takes 6 corn dogs and you're doing 30 servings, then you're going to show 30 servings here. If you're doing pizza, you do 150 pizza if you're using 150 servings. Column 14 is total amount available for that menu item and is a column that is looked at to verify that enough food is available for the amounts of meals claimed for reimbursement and for that day's operation. Pitt County Schools request the servings also be shown to clarify the staff has a clear understanding of portions for the items used that a pound or can yields. Meal production records, column 15, are other non-reimbursable servings, such as a la carte, catered meals outside of Pitt County Schools, school food service employee meals, purchases by students and staff. We do not have any adult meals served as a unit. It's all a la carte. For accurate reporting, you must plan these portions as well. When you plan non-reimbursable as well as reimbursable, this total will show in column 11C. The manager does the planning. Meal production records in column 16 provide an accurate count of leftovers. And this is the responsibility of the whole child nutrition team involved in preparing the meal and recording leftovers and temps of the leftovers. You must show temps for all leftovers, even if they will be discarded and there is only one left to be discarded. New this year are specific hot and cold foods following TPHC. Do not have to record the temps. These foods follow time and cannot be kept as leftovers. This is a required record and document. It tells a story of what really happened on a production day. If enough food was available in the correct portions and subgroups to justify the number of reimbursable meals claimed. Remember, if you sub an item and it's part of a subgroup, you must make sure you sub with the same subgroup. You must meet subgroups if you sub. Meal production records indicate the subgroup for each item on the menu. This is an example of your vegetable subgroup. We have several sections that you need to look at. You have your dark green vegetables. You have your red orange. You have your legumes, which are your beans and peas. You have your starchy vegetables. And here at the bottom are your other vegetables. Just remember, with the subgroup, it's always good to have a few of these products on hand in case you should run out during meal service. You can put some more on. So for example, if you have fresh carrots on hand, if you have some canned carrots as a backup in case you had to heat some so that you will meet the subgroups for the day's menu, it's always a good plan to have something as a backup. When you're recording milk, you have several options. Option 1 is the preferred method. You will count all the milk in the cafeteria, whether it's in the refrigerator, the walk-in cooler, or the milk boxes. Option 2, you count only the milk in the milk box during meal period and adjust if you have to add more milk during the lunch. What if there's a delivery during the meal service? If you're using option 1, the milk is counted as a total available. If you know you will receive a delivery during meal service, it's recorded to record the milk on hand plus what is received in column 13. Then add all of this together for the total available in column 14. At the end of the meal, all milk is counted to determine the amount left. If you're using option 2, the milk delivered is not counted as your total available. You elected to only count milk in the milk cooler as what is to be used and available, and adjust this count if you have to add more milk during the service. At the end of the meal service, only the milk in the milk cooler is counted as the amount left. When milk is delivered, you should check the temp when it's brought into the kitchen from the truck. Record the time and temperature of the milk on the milk production record. A place on the cover page has been added for recording this information. The temp of the milk should be 41 degrees. Currently, a 45 is still allowed and can be accepted, but the temp will be changing, so encourage the lower temp. If milk is out of temp above 45, then refuse it. Contact the Child Nutrition, Procurement, and track by counting any trays served that do not have a choice of milk flavors. These trays do not meet the meal pattern. Provide the count to the Child Nutrition Procurement for credit from the dairy. The Child Nutrition Director will determine action based on individual situations.